Hi, I'm Andrew Wallace, and welcome to the We've Got a Problem podcast, where each week we explore inspiring stories of struggle, success, and solutions to prevalent problems, and how our guests have turned problems into opportunities. Today I'm joined by Tim Bridges. His career has involved a multitude of different business experience, from pipeline construction to fashion to B2B specialty services. Tim's an entrepreneur, podcaster, problem solver, and all-around hustler.
Yeah.
Tim, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I came across your podcast and I said, man, that is a gentleman that I wouldn't mind, doing some networking with and see what he's up to. See if I can't help him. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, look, you've got between Mark Point, Third Party People, 2 podcasts, you've got your hands in a lot of different cookie jars. And that is something that I respect and admire, and I'm really just curious, partially how you came to do all these different things. What's your background? How did you get your start? What got you into all these different areas? And we'll just start there.
Sure. I've always kind of been known as like the tech guy, even though, these past 5 years or so have really been my super tech focus. But, a lot of people shy away from that. And so, just kind of growing up, going through college, working on our fraternity website, etc. That's kind of where I found my love for business, and also for recruitment. Was helping our fraternity build, getting the best guys we could find and getting those guys raised up to help out our chapter. And so, falling in love with business during that process and, holding key positions in Delta Tau Delta, we grew a great team. We were number 1 on campus. And then following college, it was 07, 08, and horrible market. It's kind of like what it is right now. And so coming out of school, I just knew that I wanted to be in business. However, I wasn't getting any opportunities. And so I decided to just go off and go work in the oil field as a subcontract labor worker. So a recruitment staffing company put me on, and that got my foot in the door. And so I knew, one day I would love to do this and maybe build a better mousetrap, because ultimately what I wanted to do is help as many people as I could. But it took me 13 years of working from a subcontract labor hand into the office, bidding projects. I'm talking, pipeline construction and maintenance type jobs, and then wound up managing those projects, of course, to make sure we stayed in the budget. And then took on sales roles, and just knocking off all these layers, right, to get to ultimately running divisions of companies, and then hiring, firing people, and then just going through so many acquisitions and things that I just said, you know what? We have a good presidency in here. Let's go ahead, and if I'm going to start a business, I got to do it now, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so, back in 17, 18, started forming these businesses. And then in early 19, stepped away and started building. And full time, just walked away and started building these companies, got them to 7 6-figure businesses, and sprouted a few little babies like these podcasts, and because I want to be more in public speaking. So especially with the coronavirus, everybody's stuck behind a computer now. So staying at home. Yep. So you got to be in front of people, or else you go away. And sales is different nowadays.
Man, is that the truth?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, look, everything is different, right? I work, my day job is in the film business. And as much as people go, this was great for home entertainment, because of course we were all stuck for a period of time, no matter what was happening or what your individual state was doing or how the local situation was. For the most part, a lot of us were stuck at home for a lot longer than we normally would. Activities were canceled, all those kinds of things. And so we all got on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney Plus, every one of those services. So in a way, it's been great for my business, but it has changed things dramatically for how we go about our day-to-day. Not just in how we do our work day-to-day, but also what matters, how we're going to put it out there, all those kinds of things, because theatrical distribution has kind of evaporated. Yes, it's still there and people are still putting money into it, but this huge shift that we always kind of expected has just suddenly happened much more quickly than anybody forecast would occur.
Right.
And hey, you got to go with it, right? That's the challenge is, hey, let's just go with it. Let's lean into it. Let's figure out how we're going to make this work for us, accepting the reality rather than, as so many people do, just complaining about it and going, well, it shouldn't be this way. It didn't used to be this way. Why, when I was young, when I started in this business, or how things are supposed to be done. Yes. It's like this, especially for younger guys. This, I don't care how things used to be done. Exactly. This is the way they're being done now. Yeah. So let's just get on board and go with it. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not in sales, right? I don't do sales, but when you are not in front of somebody,
right?
That's you can't. It's so easy to say no. The way that the business is occurring has obviously changed. So talk to me about your core businesses. I mean, you've got a couple of different ones that you're working through, but tell us more. What MarkPoint, third party people, those kinds of things. What's all this about?
Kind of our big money maker that got us to here was MarkPoint.com. It relied heavily on the midstream market that I came from. However, when they started shutting down all the pipeline work and oil and gas crisis, I had to shift into downstream. And so, pretty heavily industrial, but we're staffing projects. And so it's placing people, it's coordinating people, it's, getting them to my clients' projects. It may be a pipeline job for a few months, or it might be something that turns into a full-time job for them. And so, we made a few $1 million doing that. And then last year, we came over here. I started developing our marketing company because I wanted more revenue streams. And so I doubled back, and not only do I want to help people, but I also want to help businesses. So that's kind of our reason for doing that, is to focus on, helping people with all the cool automation stuff that I'm finding. If I'm able to do this, let me help you do that with yours and help you beat this technology age that's, just, it's already here. It's on top of us now. And there's no going back, like you said.
Well, yeah, just like we talked about.
Yeah. There's no going back. And so all these people, if they don't change, if they don't modernize, which is what my podcast is about, Modern Pipeliner, if they don't modernize, they're going to go away. And you've already been seeing this, right? We've seen a ton of companies go away, a ton of big companies that even have massive funding going away because they refuse to modernize. So, how can we use these new great tools and implement them quickly and automate processes and systems to help save businesses and save jobs and efficiently, right? So that's kind of what third-party people's been about, is how can we implement these systems for people, whether it be, just doing a little design work for you, or can I help you with doing a full build-out of your CRM system, etc. Whatever it is that can help you. I just want to help as many people as I can in my life.
Well, again, you keep coming back to that, and I think that's the key, is to keep helping people, right? Yeah. That's what we bonded over when we were starting to talk about having a guest on the show, is the fact that we're really trying to make a difference.
Yeah.
Right. I want to help people out. what I get from that is a feeling of intense satisfaction and pleasure from helping share something that I know or something that somebody else knows to help make their lives better, their lives easier, their lives more fun, fulfilling, all those things. And that's kind of what this does. This podcasting thing, sitting behind a microphone and all that. But also, I mean, you talked about the way that people have got to change, that the technology is here.
Yeah.
I think there's this resistance to change, and it's a human thing as much as it is an organizational thing.
Yeah.
Where you get used to the way, again, that things are done or how your day is, because that's comfortable.
Right.
And I go back to what one of my earliest guests on the show said, which was Kevin Palmieri. Kevin's big thing: nothing happens in the comfort zone, right? You've got your comfort zone, your learning zone, your anxiety zone. You want to keep people in the learning zone, and you want to keep bumping up against the top into the anxiety zone just a little bit, just to keep moving it, because your learning zone, as you get more comfortable, then that'll become the comfort zone, and you got to keep pushing against the top of your learning zone. You don't want to be in the anxiety zone. Then you start shutting down, all those kinds of things. You stop being receptive to new information. But if you're there, like, I'm not comfortable, but I'm learning,
right,
and we're moving along, that's where growth will happen. So often, and I again, I'm just talking ad nauseum, but part of it, and I think you'd probably agree with this, I hope, that you've seen the way that a lot of these companies come in. They've got a very profitable for them business that they're working on. They haven't yet hit rock bottom as an alcoholic might have to really make a change, right?
Yeah.
But they're starting to see signs that, hey, maybe we should take this seriously.
Yeah.
Right. So Intel, with their processors, started to see that these upstarts, these younger companies, might make them vulnerable, right? Because what happens in the processor space, and I imagine in all these other places, is you have the established, the market leader, the people who are dominating everything, and then they are vulnerable to some young upstart who starts to compete on cost, who makes a low quality, low cost alternative, but slowly that low cost competitor gets a little bit more competent at what they're doing. And now they can start cannibalizing your larger market. And because they're cheaper and a little more nimble and a little more receptive to the new stuff, because they don't have all this legacy business dragging them down, they're able to start to pull into your market and knock you off your perch. You know, hey, you gotta automate. You gotta do all that. So yes. I'm sorry. I always have to yes and these things because they are things that I agree with. You yourself, right? You multiple businesses, all those things. One business is too many for so many people. Why do you think you're hustling? Why do you think what do you think makes you that way? What's driving you, Tim? I'm curious what's behind all this stuff beyond the helping people. What makes you different?
When you become an entrepreneur, you really start diving inside. You think it's so much of these exterior factors, and you really start diving inside. Why am I doing this? Why am I different? Why me? You know, why have this? Why not just go to sleep? You know, and go get some rest. But I've just never been, I've never been one to desire those things. I always desired more. And I think it comes from, growing up in a not so affluent family. And, not really having anybody there to help me out. And so like Kevin, I kind of grew up without a father as well. And so you had mentioned Kevin Palmieri earlier. And so you wind up becoming kind of your own father and building a life for you that you'd always dreamed of. And in doing so, you don't want other people to ever have to deal with the things that you've dealt with. So I think that's part of it, is wanting to help people and teach people that hey, this is how it's done, like, and it's not ever going to be easy, right? But like I told you earlier, I loved business. And so I love business so much that I have these things that I've always dreamt about since I was a kid, like the fashion. That's really my wife's baby. But as a kid, I always loved fashion. And so there was always something there for that, a love for that. So if she wanted to develop that, I wanted her to have her own baby, her own project that she could, develop. And all these things that we're developing is for our family, it's for my kids. I didn't have somebody building anything for me, giving me any money, investing in me, helping me. I put myself through college. I built this career that I've had, a successful career, making more than six figure in salary before I stepped away to do this. But I just didn't find the satisfaction of being able to help as many people as I wanted to. And so, it's kind of like a life mission to help people. I got these businesses that help people and other businesses, and who doesn't need clothes, right? And before I jumped off into this oil and gas career, I was in retail for 8 years. So I worked at places like Eckerd Pharmacy, and I worked at Home Depot. And so, I got a bunch of that OCD. You got to set the shelves this way. You got to front face everything. You got to know what these prices are. You got to know when to order these things. And it's just kind of second nature now. And so, it's easy for the businesses that we got going to apply all these things I've learned along the way. And I don't care to sleep. I'd rather be building something that's going to generate income for myself and others and help others in their businesses.
Again, back to the, in a sense, servant leader kind of thing. Yeah. You're helping folks out, and there's a degree of fulfillment that comes from that I think a lot of people miss out on when they turn their nose up at it or turn their head away from it and just don't focus on those things. So I mean, I totally get it, and that's. But just as an aside, the OCD thing about wanting the labels to face forward and all this stuff. There's a grocery store locally here that I swear no other grocery store has done it this way to this degree. But every time I walk in that store, every single piece of merchandise is always pulled all the way to the front. Yeah. All the labels are perfectly turned forward. It's like retail pornography.
Exactly.
I mean, I walk in there, I love it. It's such a fulfilling experience to walk through a Gelston supermarket and see that kind of stuff. And other places, because I live in a bit of an area where we have some places where people go through. I mean, the other grocery store that I go to more regularly has the Sensodyne toothpaste locked up because people steal Sensodyne. I don't know why. And the of all the things, that's the one, not Crest, not the other brands, just Sensodyne toothpaste is locked up. But those kinds of things happen. But when you're in an experience where you're actually helping people make a difference, and you can talk to somebody with your hiring, with your staffing, with your fashion business, even making somebody feel good and look good. Hey, those kinds of things make a difference. And Clarissa Burt, one of my other guests, had her whole thing about, look, feel good, look good, do good, be good. All those things. Hey, if you look good, talk about fashion, talk to your wife, talk to anybody, just to walk into that room and be confident in yourself, that little extra boost that it gives you. Yeah. Boy, will that make a difference. We talked a little bit about it, and you said earlier we're trying to solve a problem, one guest at a time. What do you see as the biggest problem plaguing society, people, your customers, whomever? Yeah. What do you think's a problem we need to solve?
It's just everyone really needs to discover the self, and I feel like we're all programmed in a manner Since we come out of the womb, we're programmed, right? By, it could be television, or it could be radio, or it could be your own parents that have been, taught this is how you do these things, and you're just from the get-go, you're born into this world as having to accept all these things. And if you let a kid out into the world without directing them, you're supposed to do it this way, this way, this way, this way. This is the way of the world, and that's how it is. And a kid, they're going to bumble around and figure things out themselves. If we all can be a little bit more like the kid in their true self and just question these things. Why is this thing this way? That doesn't even seem right. Why would I do this thing that will harm me? Why would I do this job when I can build this whole company myself and go do this thing? Why would I go do this thing over here for pennies on the dollar when I can make, $10,000 a pop over here? It's just, it's people need to ask more questions. And I feel like, that's why I stumbled across you, and I was like, this guy is on the right page. He gets it, right? He understands these things. I need to talk to this man. Yeah.
I mean, that's questions, right? That's always what I've got. And I'm learning along with my guests, right? So as my guests, I think part of the question that I always ask is, what happens to the curiosity? Where is that childlike wonder that we go into to life, and why do we lose it? Why do we stop wanting to? Right. Yeah. Why do we stop wanting to know? I want to know how things work, right? I've taken more crap apart and try to put it back together, but you go, this is so I don't mean to keep going on about me. This is awesome. So I've got a couple more questions for you as we close things up. The questions I like to ask everybody, and these can be broad or very specific to your individual niche. What do you think the biggest fallacy is that everybody buys into, but that's just total BS at the end of the day? What do you think is just way overrated?
I don't like to get into politics, okay? But governments around the world are the biggest fallacy, right? We have to all buy into this, system that we need this thing, when in reality, if we had maybe a little bit better system in place than what we have now, that we could all live a more fulfilling life. And so I think the biggest fallacy is the current government structures that we have around the world.
Yeah, I think Winston Churchill, one of those, great thinkers who was good with a turn of phrase, said, democracy is the worst form of government we have, except for all the others. So there's like, these things are not great, but the others are not a great alternative.
Yeah.
There are downsides to all this stuff. And I think the biggest question I'm always asking is, how could we actually fix this to fix the biggest problem that exists, or what the current problems are that are plaguing the system? Is there a way to have this without that? Can I eat food that tastes good without it making me fat? Is there a way to
So
kind of optimize here and make this a little bit better?
So digging deeper into that, right? That's what we're doing here. Digging deeper into that. I've studied so many governments around the world. That's what I went to college for, right? Michael Tellinger in South Africa is a little bit more into the Ubuntu movement, right? So he's actually working on some things, and I've been following him for about 5 years now. Maybe something more along the lines of the things that he's developing. He's also got like a Bitcoin type project that he's working on. It's called Small Town Organization, something like that. And so, maybe following some of his studies and things can help us find other potential avenues that you can go down instead of just accepting this top down here. This is what you're going to do now, and this is how it's going to be.
Like you say, that it's asking the questions. It's asking the questions. It's thinking this through and not just accepting something as gospel and figuring it out. Absolutely. So
right. Because before money, what did we have? We had Ubuntu, we had, hey, I'm making tomatoes over here. I'll trade you these tomatoes for a goat. And everybody's helping their families out. Why is it so selfish now? It's because of this money factor. There's religions, there's races around the world that speak about like, please, thank you. They don't even have words like that in their diction because it's just expected that, hey, this person needs this thing and I have it. I'm going to give it to them because we are one. What has happened to the world is
no, absolutely. And there's so many different things to get into with that, because whether it's the sense of loss of community, that we've just lost the sense of you are my neighbor,
right,
and you're somebody I can see. Stephen Pressfield, who wrote The Gates of Fire and The Legend of Bagger Vance, and he's got a bunch of books on creativity as well, The War of Art, things like that. He postulated, and I'm not sure if it was his exact idea or one that he amplified, but the idea that the Greeks had it right when they formed the concept of the polis, that there was certainly a certain size of a town or a city state beyond which you lost the sense of community, that once a town grew to be a certain size, that you almost needed to split it off and go form another one.
500.
Right? Yeah,
it was
exactly.
500 people, I
believe.
Yeah.
That there's some level where we lose the sense of community and all those things. And money is an interesting one. I read Jacob Goldstein's book about the entire history of money, which is probably not for everybody, but it's the true story of a made-up thing, if you haven't looked at that. The way that some of those things go, and how we invented money and then it went away, and all the problems that money has created. That is a fascinating story to get into. And if folks are interested, I think they should check that out. So on the other side of it, what would you say the most underrated concept is that people overlook? What are people missing? What do we need more of?
Yeah, we're the key. That your own self-mastery is the key to your own happiness. How can you be happy if you believe that external factors contribute to your happiness? And what's the point of this life, right? The point of this life is to transmute darkness into love. Love is happiness. We can't be angry and be happy. So the point of this life is love and happiness. How can you do that if you believe that external factors control your happiness, like, let's say, genes, a genetic pass down? That cannot be a reality that has an effect on your happiness, okay? Because if you believe that, you'll never find happiness.
I think the external locus of control is the biggest. Yeah, I would absolutely agree that that's one of the biggest fallacies, and that you're not responsible for it, or that you can't do anything about it. It's that helplessness that I can't get past.
Yeah.
That's like, well, I can't change my genes. No, but what you can change is how you look at them and how you perceive those things and the lens you put over that stuff. If you walk out in the morning, now that's the old, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. But if you walk out and you go, this is a terrible day. It's going to be an awful day. My whole day is going to be garbage because of X. Something that I have no control over is the reason that I'm going to be depressed all day long. You go, well, that's an interesting way to look at it, and you probably are going to be that way. But if you go, you know what? This is a chance. This is an opportunity. Hey, story of the show. But this is an opportunity to do something new. What did I learn? Oh, wow, that blew up in my face. Well, guess what? I learned something. Thomas Edison, right? I found 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. I didn't fail. I learned 1,000 ways not to make it, and all I needed was one. Tim, thank you so much for joining me. Folks, if you want to know more about Tim, check out his podcast, Optimum Ideation, browse his company's projects, and follow him on social media. Links to everything are in the show notes, as always. And until next time, I'm Andrew Wallace, and we don't have a problem. We have an opportunity to look at things in a better way.